excited that we came out of it injury free. That's fairly unusual for a spring game. So was happy to see that, and really excited to see our guys fly around and respond. And sometimes different sides of the ball we're down by quite a few points, and the other side responded, and that was not rigged to be a tie game. The Orange team was comfortably ahead with the one defense out there against the two offense, and Sam Ellinger threw a touchdown to L.J. Humphrey that kind of put the white team back in it, and so it was good to see them respond even with the twos. Thought the first drive by the one offense set the tempo, not just offensively, because there were a couple big plays and obviously scored a touchdown, but defensively too. We had guys flying around, some big hits. Chris Brown with a big hit, even though it was an explosive play for the offense. It was really good to see guys flying around and going to the echo of the whistle. So was happy with that. Pleased with the progress that we've made throughout the entirety of spring practice. Thank God we don't have to play tomorrow. But we've made strides. Really the only goal from spring practice was to learn how to practice and learn what the expectations are in this program, and learn that there's no such thing as just another day in this program. That when you walk in those doors, it is fourth and inches. And when you leave, whatever it is, whether it's a workout, a meeting, or a practice, you should be mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted. And if you're not, what's the saying? You're doing it wrong. You're doing football wrong, or you're footballing wrong. I think our guys understand that. They believe it. Now the consistent execution of that is still a work in progress, but we're making the buy-in is probably the most difficult part, and we've got that for the most part from a lot of guys, and now it's just a matter of again the execution consistently of that intensity from the time you step in the building to the time you put your head down on the pillow.
Coach, it's clear you have an expectation for what's going on, but according to your history and where you've seen this team now that the spring has ended, is the pathway clear? Do you see a way that you're there by the time you step on the field in the fall?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're still a work in progress, but we're on the right track. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Can we get derailed between now and September? When do we play? September 1? September 2nd? I don't know. Whenever we play the first game, we could certainly, take some steps back. I would hope we don't, but we're in a good spot, having done this just 2 years ago at a different place. We're in a good spot right now, especially from the buy-in standpoint.
Stay up front, Brian. Tom, based on what you've seen in 15 practices, including today, are you ready to name Shane your starter? Where are you with the quarterbacks, and are you content at this point to roll with them, or do you still want to get another one?
No, we need more than 2 scholarship quarterbacks. That's for sure, and we're going to try to do that. You can't wave a magic wand and one show up. I mean, you've got to. The circumstances have to be right. And as far as Shane being the starter, no, no way. I think a healthy fear of losing your job is just that, healthy. And Shane knows we have a lot of confidence in him. And Shane did a lot of things really, really well this spring. But to say that he's won the job in 12 padded practices when he doesn't even get hit, that would be a bit premature.
Coach, it's different in a game situation, obviously, than practice, but anything surprise you out there that you saw today? Any guy more intense because the lights are on, so to say?
They better not be. Then they've cheated their team for 14 practices. If they're more intense today than any other day in spring practice. We don't have gamers. We have practicers. There's no such thing in this program as gamers. If you're a gamer and don't practice hard, then you don't play. So nobody will ever know if you're a gamer or not. The pleasant surprise to me was the crowd. I had, heard some, horror stories, or people had been preparing me and setting my expectations maybe a bit too low. Again, certainly not where we want it to be. There's teams across the country that are selling out their spring game, and there's not a seat in the house. But to see that many people here certainly exceeded my expectations. Hopefully they had a good time, and at some point here in the very near future, we're gonna have that thing 100% sold out as well.
Tom, from what you saw this spring and today, what were your impressions of Rowland and your overall kicking game?
The kicking game, it's fine. We don't work on it enough, and we work on punt a ton, and we're getting better at that. And the field goal PAT, there's kids they pull out of the stands that can make a field goal PAT when nobody's rushing, and there's nobody, the game's not on the line. I mean, we put them in as adverse situations as possible throughout the course of practice, but you never know with those guys.
It seemed like the pass rush was there the whole time. What did you see out of guys like Roach, Malik, even Chris Nelson on the interior?
Yeah, really, throughout the spring, pleasantly surprised with the first team defensive line. You can win with Malcolm Roach, Chris Nelson, and definitely Poona Ford. He's the hardest playing guy we have on our football team. You can win with those guys. The problem is defensive linemen can't play 70 to 80 snaps a game. They just can't. They get worn down, they get tired, and the pass rush becomes non-existent at the end of the game. So you have to develop your second group. A guy that's come along the last week or so up there has been Jordan Elliott. He's playing a lot tougher, a lot more physical, but we need the rest of those guys to be able to give us at least 20 to 30 snaps throughout the course of a game.
Coach, want to get your impression on two things, maybe how your second team performed, especially on the offensive line, and little Jordan Humphrey. Is that something that you've seen from him throughout most of your practices?
What, him not leaving his feet to try to catch a ball and reaching one hand out? Yes, that's what I've seen from 15 practices. Or were you talking about his production? Yeah. The production, definitely. He's gotten better. And I again, that's nothing I haven't told him. There's now 2 out of the last 3 practices. He's had a ball go off his fingertips, and he's raised one hand up instead of reaching out with 2 hands and maybe even leaving his feet. And he's got to learn how to do that to make plays for his quarterback. But in terms of if you were to group guys into getting better, staying the same, or regressing, he's definitely in the getting better category. Each and every week we see more and more production from him. It was the second O-line. Better than I thought it'd be. I mean, I thought it was going to be a sieve. And so, they were able to make some plays. And I thought the offensive staff did a good job of calling some very safe plays with those guys and not asking them to do a whole lot except come off the ball. And they did a good job. Was happy with that.
Tom, what are your biggest concerns coming out of the spring, and what did you see from your linebacker position?
Biggest concerns, depth at D-line, mental toughness at wide receiver. To me, anytime you drop a pass, that's a mental issue. It has nothing to do with your physical skills. So that concerns me. Who's going to play tight end? Definitely, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. So those three are probably the biggest three that concern me.
Steve Helwick, the Daily Texan. Tom, there were a lot of spring games today, but unlike most of them, yours started out with a circle drill, ended with a sudden death play. What inspires you to implement all these unconventional methods into a spring game?
Competition. We compete in everything that we do. And I heard the PA announcer say the game has ended, 51-51 tie or whatever it was. I was like, we don't have ties in this program. There's no such thing. We're going to keep going until a winner declares themselves. And so that was neat to see that. And then, I think, anytime you can get guys in the circle drill and display some physicality and toughness in a competitive setting is always good to set the tone for the scrimmage.
Coach, what were your thoughts on Tennille Carter today, recognizing that 5 running backs were out of the spring game?
He put the ball on the ground. It's hard to ignore that. But he missed the protection on third down that got us sacked. But beyond that, for a kid that's supposed to be picking out his tuxedo and thinking of crazy ways to ask his girl to the prom, he's going to be a really good player if he stays on this course. But being the only scholarship guy, obviously, we set unbelievably high, expectations of him because, who else are we going to play? And so, a couple of the negative things certainly stand out in my mind. But if I take a step back and realize, kind of where he's at, and he's played college football now for 12 padded practice, not even because he was hurt for, maybe 9 padded practices. The future is bright if he stays the course.
Tom, after 15 practices, how would you assess how Shane and Sam are coming along from a leadership standpoint, and what do they need to do this summer to impress you?
Just okay. Shane, I think, took some steps this past week. I saw him smiling more, and his body language was better. And we've had a lot of conversations about that. He was a lot more positive. Even when negative things happen, you can't always be the guy that's coming down on your teammates. You've got to be the guy at times that says, guys, we're all right, settle down, here we go, let's get the next one, and so he's doing a much better job with that. But what do they need to do over the summer? Continue to get better, and they got to be vocal, and they've got to be assertive. And Sam, I think, needs to realize too that just because he's a freshman doesn't mean he should acquiesce all the leadership to everybody else. That he's got a lot of presence, a lot of natural leadership, and whether he winds up being the first, second, third, fourth team quarterback, it doesn't matter. I've seen Kenny Guyton's a great example. At Ohio State, was a backup quarterback and was a captain, and was a tremendous leader for us. And so, it's about, how much the guys respect you and what you say and how you say it and when you say it. And then certainly your attitude and actions are at the forefront as well.
Kylie, UT Journalism School. So a lot of your coaches have talked about how important family is. Is there a reason why you chose to have the spring game on Easter weekend? Was that intentional?
No, it wasn't intentional. It just you try to stay on the same schedule every year. So, you have signing day, and then you want your staff to have about 4 weeks of getting ready for spring ball. Then you want to get your 2 practices in shorts out of the way before spring break, go on spring break, come back, and go 3 practices a week for 4 straight weeks. Easter's a rotating holiday, so about every 4 years you wind up having your spring game on Easter weekend. Not by design, but I certainly didn't want to throw the schedule off by saying, okay, hey, we're going to try to cram 4 practices a weekend and not pay attention enough to our meetings and our lift times. So it just happens that way some years, and this was one of them.
Yeah, Tom, if part of the goal was to have the best 22 players you can that have the caliber to win games, big games, to win the Big 12, of the starting 22, how many of those types do you think you have right now?
I'm doing some quick math in my head here, Kirk. Hang on. 16, 17. We don't have a tight end right now. Garrett Gray's getting better. But to say if you started the season tomorrow that you could win the Big 12 with Garrett Gray, I don't. He would be the first to tell you, no, I got to get better. Right? And we have 3 months. Maybe 18 or 19 probably is fair. We need more. Well, you said the starting 22. Yeah, tailback. I don't know. Again, if you played tomorrow, I don't think you'd want to jog Tennille Carter out there for 80 snaps with no backup. So that's a concern. And then, we got a, right tackle. We need a little bit more production at right tackle.
Your new lockers debuted online yesterday, and they seem to come along very quickly and very nicely. What do those things say about the future of the program from a facility standpoint?
Well, it just says that, we're committed to providing our student athletes the best training facility in the country, or as possible. We're a bit constricted from a landlocked standpoint sometimes, but we're going to make this facility as state-of-the-art and as first class as we can, and there will be no reason from a facility standpoint for a recruit to want to go somewhere else.
Coach, did you like the tempo throughout practice? And then can you just talk to me about that 4th and 2 at the end? Did you like the way that your defense responded?
Yeah, I like the tempo. I thought, it's a lot easier to play with good tempo and rhythm when you're making first downs. And the first offense did that, quite frequently. So they got into a good rhythm. I think they played like 15 more snaps than the 2 offense / 1 defense, just because the 1 defense was getting a lot of 3 and outs, which is to be expected, and that happens. But yes, I was very proud of the defense for bowing up there at the end. Really, I don't, whether they knew it or not or paid attention to the scoreboard, the white team went up by 3, and they needed to happen exactly what happened just for them to be in that boat, which was a sack, which was 2 points, and then a stop drive, which was 1 point, 3 points tied it up, which then sent it into sudden death, and was really, if there was a side of the ball I was rooting for, it was definitely the defense.
Time for 2 last ones, Cedric and then Brian.
Tom, you the big alumni presence today, and you made a point to go over and personally thank several of the guys. How important is that, getting that relationship and trying to get where you need to go as a program?
Yeah, I think the 2 biggest constituents, and they are that, constituents being they have a stake in this program, are the former players and the high school coaches in the state of Texas. And we have, I hope it's been evident that we've been over backwards to try to rekindle those relationships with both those constituencies. And it's not for show. I really believe that, you're talking to a guy, I saw Hodges Mitchell at the golf tournament, the alumni golf tournament yesterday for the first time in 19 years. And that was really, really cool, and to see guys like Stevie Lee, all those guys from the crew that, Matt Trissel and those guys from the crew that I was around is really heartwarming for me. And then obviously there had been a lot of greats throughout that I didn't know until I got here again, and Aaron Ross and Michael Huff and Michael Griffin and Tim Crowder and those guys and Colt even. But we've gone out of our way to build relationships with them because maybe it's selfish or I don't know, but I firmly believe that if I'm a current football player at the University of Texas and I see those guys walking around and they're successful husbands and fathers and football players and businessmen and entrepreneurs and career guys, you know, and I have that role model each and every day, and they walk around with their T-rings on, and they're present at just about anything and everything, then how does that not motivate you if you're, you know, an 18 to 22-year-old current player on this team to say, I want to be like Corey Redding? Well, how do you know that? Because I see him every day, and he talks to me, and he tells me his story, and he tells me about, you know, whatever, I don't know, 17 years or something like that in the NFL. It feels like 30. But, and then coming out and being a businessman too, and an entrepreneur, and starting his own barbershop, and, you know, the list goes on and on and on. You know, Michael Huff giving back, you know, being a quality control assistant. And so I think they're invaluable, and you need them around as much as possible. And at the same time, we're very, very honored and thankful for their sacrifices for this program, because every single number that you see up in this room was put there by them. And there's a lot of numbers. And we're really, really thankful to have them around.
Tom, an internal question, then an external. What needs to happen in this building before Maryland gets here for you to be satisfied? That's number one. And then number two, as you know, this fan base has unbelievable expectations. What, in your mind, are realistic expectations for 2017?
What needs to happen within the walls of this building? We got to get our legs stronger. You know, our hips and our legs just aren't really strong, and so when we get tired, we get really high because it's hard to bend and get low when your hips and legs are really weak. So we've got to create a lot of strength here in the next 3 months, a lot of lower body strength, and we've got to develop leaders. You know, I still, if you told me if there was a vote today for captain, I'm not sure who would get it. You know, I'm not sure who the four guys would be, and that's a bit unusual. So you know, we got to keep developing them, and that comes from one-on-one meetings with myself and with their position coach more so, and with Coach McKnight, and so on and so forth. So I think if we accomplish those two things and we come into training camp healthy and stronger and with some leaders, you know, we'll be in good shape. As far as expectations, I mean, I know you probably have to ask that question. I think it's in the sports journalism manual. I really, and it sounds like coach speak, I don't have any. Just like spring practice. Well, how far along are you from where you thought you'd be? I don't know, 81.7%. I mean, I don't know. You know, this is a 1-0 day-to-day program. You know, I'm worried about Monday. These guys coming in ready for a 3-week block of lifting and running to get them prepared, you know, for the summer grind, the June and July grind, to get them prepared for training camp. From a 30,000-foot view, I think it's fair to say that each and every year the University of Texas should be in the conversation in the month of November, you know, or should be in contention for a Big 12 title. And you know, but beyond that, expectations, man, I'm just trying to get through Monday. Good? All right. Oh, yeah. Better production today. Was concerned throughout spring. We need it to be better consistently, but without watching the film, I thought today was a big step in the right direction.